A young woman lost everything, except her courage. And in the middle of destruction, she met a wounded soldier who taught her how to love again. Their love was born in chaos, tested by war, and nearly destroyed by fate. This is not just a story of war. This is a story of sacrifice, pain, and a love that refused to die.
The city of Raventun had once been full of life. Children used to run across the narrow streets, laughing as their shadows danced along the warm stone walls. Cafes played soft music in the evenings, and the scent of fresh bread drifted through open windows. But war had changed everything. Now the sky was almost always gray. Smoke rose from broken buildings like silent screams reaching for the clouds. The roads were cracked and covered with dust, broken glass, and memories of a peaceful life that no longer existed. Elena Moore stood near the ruins of what had once been her home. She was 25 years old, but the war had made her feel much older. Her long dark hair was tied loosely behind her head, and her eyes, once full of dreams, now carried sadness and strength together. In her hands, she held a small photograph. It was her parents. They had died during the first bombing 2 years ago. Elena closed her eyes tightly. "I will survive," she whispered. "For you." She had learned to be strong in a world that showed no mercy. Every day, she volunteered at a small medical shelter where wounded civilians and soldiers were brought. She cleaned wounds, gave water, and comforted people who cried for families they would never see again. Sometimes, she wondered how much pain a human heart could carry. That morning, the sound of sirens filled the air. Another attack. Elena ran toward the shelter, her heart pounding. Explosions shook the ground. Dust fell from the ceilings, people screamed. Inside the shelter, chaos ruled. Doctors shouted orders. Nurses rushed from bed to bed. Then the doors burst open. 2 soldiers carried in a wounded man. Blood stained his uniform. "Help him," one of them yelled. Elena rushed forward. The wounded soldier was unconscious. His face was pale, his breathing shallow. She had never seen him before, but something about him made her heart tighten. His name tag read, Lucas Reed. They placed him on a bed quickly.
Elena pressed cloth against his wound, trying to stop the bleeding. "Stay with us," she whispered. Hours passed. Outside, the bombing slowly faded. Inside, silence returned. Lucas survived, but he didn't wake up. Elena sat beside him, watching his chest rise and fall. She didn't know why she stayed. Maybe it was the way his face looked peaceful despite the horror around them. Maybe it was the feeling that their lives were now connected in some strange way. That night, as rain tapped softly on the broken windows, Elena whispered, "I don't know who you are, but I hope you live." She didn't know that this wounded soldier would soon change her life forever. 3 days passed. Elena returned to the shelter every morning. She cleaned Lucas's wounds carefully. She spoke to him, even though he never replied. She told him about Raventun before the war. About the cafes. About the laughter. "Maybe when this ends," she said softly one day, "we'll see the city smile again." That afternoon, while Elena was changing his bandage, she felt his fingers move. Her breath stopped. "Lucas," she whispered. Slowly, his eyes opened. They were deep brown, tired but gentle. For a moment, he looked confused. Then he tried to sit up and groaned in pain. "Easy," Elena said quickly, pressing him back gently. "You're safe." Where am I? His voice was weak. You're in a medical shelter, she replied. You were injured during the bombing. He closed his eyes for a second. Did my unit make it? Elena hesitated. She didn't know. I'm not sure, she said honestly. But you're alive. That seemed to matter to him. My name is Lucas, he whispered. I know, Elena smiled softly. Your tag told me. He looked at her carefully. And you are? Elena. Thank you, he said. For saving me. Her heart warmed. From that day on, Lucas slowly recovered. Each day, they talked more. He told her he had joined the army to protect his younger sister who lived in another city. I promised I'd come back alive, he said. Elena told him about losing her parents. About being alone. I used to dream of becoming a teacher, she said. Now I just dream of peace. Lucas listened quietly. You're stronger than you think, he said softly. Their bond grew with every conversation. In the middle of war, they found comfort in each other. But neither of them knew that danger was still coming. And that love during war is never easy. Lucas was finally able to walk again, though slowly. Elena often supported him as they moved through the broken hallways of the shelter. Outside, the city still burned with fear, but inside, something soft and warm was growing between them. One evening, the sky turned orange as the sun set behind destroyed buildings. They sat on a broken staircase outside the shelter. For a moment, the war felt far away. I used to come here as a child, Elena said quietly. There was a park nearby. Flowers everywhere. Lucas looked around at the ruins. It's hard to imagine beauty in this place now. But it was beautiful, she whispered. And it will be again. He turned toward her. You believe that? I have to, she replied. Hope is the only thing war hasn't taken from me. Lucas smiled gently. You give me hope too. Their eyes met. The sound of distant gunfire echoed, but neither moved. Slowly, Lucas reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. I don't know what will happen tomorrow, he said. But if I survive this war, I want to find a peaceful life. And I want you to be part of it. Elena's breath caught. Lucas. I know it's crazy, he continued. We met in chaos. But sometimes the strongest feelings grow in the darkest times. Tears filled her eyes. I'm scared, she admitted. Everyone I love disappears. I won't, he said firmly. I promise. She nodded slowly. I want to believe you. They sat together in silence, holding hands as the sun disappeared. That night, Elena realized she was falling in love. The next morning came with terrible news. Soldiers arrived at the shelter. Lucas was called back to duty. Elena stood frozen as an officer spoke. We need every strong man on the front lines, he said. Your recovery is enough. Lucas clenched his fists. I'm not fully healed. War doesn't wait, the officer replied. Elena felt fear rise inside her. No, she whispered. He can't go. Lucas walked toward her. I have to, he said softly. It's my duty. Tears streamed down her face. You promised you wouldn't leave. I promised I'd survive, he said gently, wiping her tears. And I will. He pulled her into his arms. For a moment, the world disappeared. I'll come back to you, he whispered. No matter what. She held him tightly. Please, don't become another memory. He kissed her forehead. I won't. Hours later, Elena watched trucks carry soldiers away. Lucas stood at the back, looking at her until the dust hid him from sight. Her heart broke. That night, explosions felt louder. The shelter felt emptier. Elena prayed silently. Bring him back safely. Days turned into weeks. The shelter felt colder without Lucas. Elena kept herself busy helping the wounded, but every quiet moment reminded her of him. One evening, a soldier arrived carrying a bag of letters. Messages from the front lines, he announced. Elena's hands shook as she searched. There it was. Lucas's handwriting. She opened it slowly. My Elena. Every night, I look at the sky and wonder if you're looking at the same stars. The fighting is heavy, but your voice keeps me strong. I've seen terrible things, but I also see a future with you. Promise me you won't give up hope. I'm coming back. Always yours. Lucas' tears fell onto the paper. She pressed the letter to her chest. From that day on, more letters came. Some were short. Some were long. He told her about lost friends. About cold nights. About fear. But he always ended with love. Elena replied whenever she could. She wrote about the shelter. About helping children, about dreaming of peace. Their love grew through words. Even across the war. One night, the sound of explosions was closer than ever. The front line had moved nearer to Raventon. People whispered nervously. A wounded soldier was brought into the shelter. He was shaking badly. Elena, he whispered weakly, grabbing her hand. You know Lucas Reed? Her heart stopped. Yes, he's my. He was in the last battle, the soldier said. It was hell. Her breathing became fast. What happened? The enemy attacked suddenly. Bombs everywhere. We were surrounded. She felt dizzy. Lucas saved many of us, he continued. He pulled men from fire. He kept fighting even when injured again. Is he alive? She cried. The soldier looked away. I don't know, he said softly. He was taken away in an ambulance, but the area was destroyed. Elena collapsed to the floor. Her world shattered. That night, she couldn't sleep. She imagined Lucas bleeding. Calling her name. Lost in smoke. She prayed harder than ever before. Days passed with no news. No letters. No confirmation. People began to whisper that many soldiers had died in the last battle. Elena's heart slowly broke piece by piece. She stopped smiling. She worked in silence. Every wounded soldier's face made her hope and fear. One rainy afternoon, an officer arrived at the shelter. He called Elena aside. Her hands trembled. We regret to inform you, he said carefully, that Lucas Reed is listed as missing in action. Missing. Not dead. But not alive either. The words echoed in her head. Missing, she whispered. There's a chance he survived, the officer said. But no confirmation. Elena nodded slowly. Inside, she was screaming. That night, she sat alone in the ruins where they had once watched the sunset. Rain soaked her clothes. I can't lose you, she cried to the sky. You promised. Memories flooded her mind. His smile. His voice. His warmth. For the first time since the war began, Elena felt truly weak, but then she remembered his letters. His words. Promise me you won't give up hope. She wiped her tears. I won't, she whispered. Even if it hurts. She stood up slowly. Hope was fading. But it wasn't gone. Not yet. At first, he thought he was dead. His body felt heavy, his head burned with pain, and the smell of smoke filled his lungs. Slowly, sounds returned. Shouting. Gunfire. Sirens. He opened his eyes just a little. He was lying in a broken street, half covered by rubble. An explosion had thrown him far from the battlefield. His leg was bleeding badly. Every breath hurt. Around him, buildings were collapsing. Men were running. Some were screaming. Some were not moving at all. Lucas tried to stand. Pain shot through his body and he fell again. "Elena," he whispered. Her face was the only thing keeping him alive. He dragged himself slowly behind a fallen wall as bullets flew past. Hours passed. His vision blurred. He thought about their first meeting. Her gentle hands. Her hopeful smile. "I promised you," he whispered. "I'm coming back." Just when his strength was almost gone, he heard voices. Enemy soldiers. They were searching the area. If they found him, he would be killed. Lucas held his breath. Blood soaked the ground beneath him. One soldier walked close. So close Lucas could see his boots. His heart pounded wildly. But suddenly another explosion hit nearby. Dust filled the air. The soldiers ran away. Lucas used the last of his strength to crawl toward a destroyed ambulance. Inside, he found medical supplies. With shaking hands, he tied cloth around his leg. Pain made him scream silently. Night fell. Cold rain started. Lucas lay alone in the darkness. But he was alive. And he refused to die. Back in Raventon, Elena lived like a shadow. She helped people. She smiled when necessary. But inside, she was broken. Every night she dreamed of Lucas calling her. Every morning she woke up with tears. One day, a group of refugees arrived from a nearby destroyed town. Among them was an old woman with kind eyes. Elena gave her water. "Thank you, my child," the woman said softly. "Where are you coming from?" Elena asked. "From the Eastern Front," she replied. "We escaped after the big battle." Elena's heart raced. "The battle where many soldiers were lost?" she asked carefully. "Yes," the woman nodded sadly. "My son was there." "I'm so sorry," Elena whispered. The woman sighed. "But I saw something strange," she continued. "A wounded soldier crawling through the streets after the fighting ended." Elena froze. "He was alive?" she asked. "Yes," the woman said. "Barely. But alive." "What did he look like?" Elena asked, her voice shaking. "Tall. Dark hair. A deep cut on his leg." He kept whispering a name. Elena's breath stopped. "What name?" "Elena," the woman said softly. Tears filled Elena's eyes. "That's me," she whispered, her heart suddenly beat with new strength. "He's alive," she cried. Hope returned like a warm light in darkness. From that day on, Elena began searching. She asked soldiers, doctors, refugees, anyone who might have seen him. Days passed. Then weeks. Most people had no answers, but she refused to stop. Because now she knew. Lucas was alive somewhere. And she would find him. Lucas spent days hiding among broken buildings. Sometimes he moved only at night. His leg was swollen and painful, but he forced himself forward. Every step was torture. He drank rainwater from broken metal sheets. He ate whatever he could find. His body was weak, but his heart was strong. He thought of Elena every moment. Her voice in his mind guided him. Don't give up. One night, he reached an abandoned school building. Inside, it was dark and cold. He found old blankets and wrapped his leg. As he rested, he heard footsteps. He froze. The door creaked open. A group of enemy soldiers entered. Lucas slowly grabbed a broken piece of wood, ready to fight. But he was too weak. One soldier shined a light. There, he shouted. Lucas tried to stand but fell. They surrounded him. Instead of killing him, they tied his hands. He's wounded, one said. Take him to the camp. Lucas closed his eyes. He was alive. But now a prisoner. The enemy camp was hidden deep in ruined factories. Lucas was thrown into a dark room with other prisoners. Men sat against walls, weak and broken. Some cried silently. Some stared into nothing. Days passed. Food was little. Water was dirty. Guards shouted. Pain was everywhere, but Lucas never spoke of Elena. He kept her in his heart like a secret flame. One old prisoner whispered to him one night. Hope is dangerous here. Lucas shook his head. Hope is the only thing keeping me alive. They were forced to work every day. Carrying heavy stones. Cleaning weapons. Anyone who fell was beaten. Lucas's injured leg made everything harder, but he refused to fall. At night, he closed his eyes and imagined Elena smiling. I will return, he whispered. Elena's search took her far from Raventon. She traveled with refugee groups. She crossed destroyed villages. She saw burned houses and empty streets. Fear followed her everywhere. But love pushed her forward. At one village, she met a young boy. Have you seen a wounded soldier? She asked. The boy nodded. They took him away, he said. Who? Elena asked quickly. Enemy men. Toward the old factories. Her heart pounded. She knew where that was. It was dangerous. No civilians went there. People said prisoners were kept there. Everyone warned her. You'll be killed. But Elena didn't listen. That night, she walked alone toward the factories. The moon lit the broken road, every shadow looked like a threat. Her hands shook. But she kept going. Lucas, she whispered. I'm coming. The old factories stood like dark monsters in the distance. Broken windows looked like empty eyes watching Elena approach. Her heart beat wildly. Every step closer felt heavier. Gunshots echoed far away. She hid behind walls when lights moved. Finally, she reached a side entrance. Inside, the air smelled of oil and smoke. Voices of guards could be heard. She walked slowly, praying silently. She followed the sound of weak coughing. Her heart recognized it before her ears did. Lucas, she whispered. She saw him. Thin. Dirty. But alive. He sat against a wall, chains on his hands. Tears filled her eyes. She rushed forward. Lucas. He lifted his head slowly. Elena, he whispered in disbelief. For a moment, they just stared. Then he tried to stand but fell. She caught him. You're real, he said softly. I thought I was dreaming. I came for you, she cried. I'm not leaving without you. Footsteps came closer. Guards were coming. Elena quickly used a small knife she had found on the way and cut his ropes. They supported each other as they walked. Suddenly a guard appeared. Stop. Lucas pushed Elena behind him. Before the guard could shoot, Lucas hit him with a metal pipe. They ran. Bullets flew past. Walls broke around them. They reached the exit just as an explosion hit behind. Dust covered the sky. They escaped into the dark. Lucas leaned heavily on Elena. But neither complained. At sunrise, they reached a small hill outside the destroyed city. From there, they could see Raventon far away. Smoke still rose. But sunlight touched the broken buildings. It's still standing, Elena whispered. So are we, Lucas said softly. They sat together. Exhausted, alive. Tears fell freely. I thought I lost you, Elena said. I thought I'd never see you again, Lucas replied. But we survived. They held hands tightly. After the war ends, Lucas said, let's leave this place. Where will we go? She asked. Somewhere peaceful. Somewhere we can start again. She smiled through tears. Yes. Months later, the war slowly ended. Cities began rebuilding. People returned. Elena and Lucas helped others find homes and hope. They built a small house near a green valley. Flowers grew again. Laughter returned. One evening, as the sun set peacefully, Lucas knelt in front of Elena. "Will you marry me?" he asked softly. She covered her mouth in surprise. "Yes," she cried. They hugged tightly. War had taken many things from them. But it had not taken their love. And love had led them to hope.